Hi, this is Brad Linder with Lilliputian, and this is the Samsung Notebook 913 and the Samsung Notebook 915. They're both sort of in the same series. They're both thin and light machines. And when I say thin and light, we're talking about something that weighs just about 2.2 pounds here for the smaller model. It has a 75 watt-hour battery for a long battery life. It's got a 1920 by 1080 pixel display and a quad-core Intel 8th generation core processor, up to Core i7, up to 1 terabyte of solid-state storage, and a backlit keyboard, USB Type-C ports, USB 3.0, and HDMI. It's also got a headset jack and full-size HDMI port and micro SD card slot down here on the other side. It's a relatively thin and light device. This model does not have a touchscreen display, you'll notice. But if you want a touchscreen, there's also the Samsung Notebook 9 Pen, which is very similar in sort of look and feel. But this model actually has a little spot down here in the bottom where a Samsung S Pen hangs out when it's not in use. And you can just pull that out and use it to sort of hover and write and draw and so forth. So we've got the S Pen input, and the other thing that sets this model apart is the fact that it is a 360-degree hinged device that you can flip over and use in tablet mode. So just go ahead and flatten that, flip it over. So you can use it in sort of tent, stand, or tablet mode. It supports continuum, so it automatically switches between the modes depending on what it is that you're doing. Again, we've got HDMI, USB Type-C, headset, or actually I think headset, USB, and micro SD card slots. And again, very sort of thin and light, and it allows you to sort of pick it up and hold it in tablet mode. It's relatively comfortable to use, even though, generally speaking, I find 2-in-1s or convertibles of this size to be a little bit sort of bulky and heavy. I think it really helps that it's such a lightweight machine that I do seem to have turned off somehow. There we go. The screen's back on. QWERTY keyboard. The case is relatively sturdy feeling, but again, lightweight. So it almost feels plasticky, but it's actually an alloy, so it's not actually plastic. We've got the Windows Windows Hello infrared compatible cameras on the top, and the Notebook 9 Pen gets a little bit less battery life, has a smaller battery, 39 watt-hours, in order to stay the same weight at about 2.2 pounds. The 15-inch model, I'm told, is able to get up to 19 hours of battery life. When I asked doing what, the answer was basically what it's doing now, which is sitting around not doing much at all. But in terms of real-world use, you should probably be able to get it fairly close to all-day battery life. We've got USB Type-C ports, USB full-size ports. There's room for 2 full-size USBs, HDMI, and a micro SD card slot on this model. And I should also point out a couple of other quick things here. One is, while these models don't have touchscreen displays, they do have screens that fold back at about 180 degrees. So if you wanted to sort of lie it flat on the table, you do have that option. And also, the screen is a little bit recessed on these models. So whereas the edge-to-edge glass sort of has a smooth feel on the convertible style, on the non-convertibles, it's recessed a little bit. Looking from here, they're not matte displays, but they're also not super glossy. So I think this is the sort of screen that some people would probably call a non-glare display. Depending on the situation, depending on where you are in relation to the lights, you might get a little bit of glare, but generally speaking, they're not bad. My first thought upon looking at these laptops is that they seem a little bit sort of less sleek than some previous generation models, and that's because they're a little bit sort of more rounded around the edges and a little bit sort of more uniform in size, so they don't have this thicker at the back and thin at the beginning that you get with some previous generation devices. But overall, after spending a few minutes with it, I really do kind of like the design. And the main thing is, at 2.2 pounds, it's hard to find a notebook that's significantly lighter than this, with a full 13.3-inch display, quad-core processor, and a very large battery. So anyways, that's a quick look at Samsung's 2018 line of thin and light laptops, the Notebook 9 series, Notebook 9 Pen, and the Notebook 9, 13, and 15. This is Brad Linder with Lilliputian.